Hey everyone, welcome. And we're talking with Brian Hoyer today. Brian, I'm so glad you're here. You got some big news for us and everyone who cares about EMF safety, safe technology, and tools and solutions. So, welcome and thanks for joining us.
Yeah, it's great to be here. And we do have some exciting news. And I know that a lot of people, the last few years especially, have been concerned about fifth generation wireless technology, 5G, millimeter waves. And there's been a lot of information on the internet about how it's being used and what it's doing to us, and a lot of confusion. And the reason for a lot of this confusion is that we don't have a way as normal people who are not millionaires or billionaires to measure this. And that's been one of the big issues, but that is soon to be over because we have this new affordable millimeter wave product that has come to the market that I've been using a lot of the prototypes recently. And now I have one right here. And we want to tell you about that today.
That's awesome, Brian. This is something, and I'll just pop that on the screen here. This is something that I've been saying for a couple years, is like since the 5G summit, since the first iteration of the 5G summit in 2019, is like, okay, we got all these people coming together to get awareness, but we need to know what's around us. We need to make the invisible visible, right? And we
Mm-hmm.
haven't been able to do that with any of the affordable, like consumer oriented testing devices out there until now. So this is exciting. So what Brian's going to tell us about is the first ever affordable millimeter wave testing device that instead of costing Brian, do you want to go to that slide? Like instead of costing 25,000 or 65,000, and even the lowest one was 8,000. This meter is under 1,000 now, and it's upgradable to greater frequency bands as time goes on. The product is going to be evolved, and so those who want the product now will get those upgrades included in their purchase. So this is the kind of thing, Brian, that I think is we just want to kind of position it correctly. And that to me is something like this. With the millimeter wave spectrum, there's been a lot of hearsay. There's been a lot of, okay, this could be beaming at me. It could be, targeted. Is it all only on when my phone is on? Can I actually be safe from the millimeter towers? How much radiation is there from millimeter wave compared to 4G, LTE, and 3G, and so on? This is making it all known now. And you're talking about, people are actually not only getting this product now, which is just released in the last couple of weeks, they're getting this meter, but they're coming together and sharing their results, right? Like the idea is to share data from all over. So I'm really excited about this. And so tell us more.
Yeah, so that's exactly right. Is my hope is because this is on the market and I'm able to be, fortunate enough to be one of the people that was consulting with them to do a lot of the field testing, that people who purchase from us, I'm able to gather their information and create a group where we can share and talk about accurate how to test it accurately, and also just support one another and gather the data so that we know what these exposures are like and the nature of the frequencies. And just in my limited testing, I can tell you that this millimeter wave meter, it's uh, it's going to measure both 4G frequencies and 5G frequencies for certain carriers. So, the antennas that are installed in these meters are very expensive, and the goal with this one was to make it the most affordable that we could. And so they started off with a the regular 4G and 3G meter that measures 40 megahertz to 10 gigahertz, which actually also covers a lot of the 5G mid band and low band frequencies that we're being saturated with all the upgraded 5G networks. But then also the biggest wireless carrier is actually Verizon Wireless, and they have a 28 gigahertz band for their ultra wideband millimeter waves, and that's what this sweet spot is for this meter is 24 gigahertz to 32 gigahertz. So right in the middle of that is 28, and you'll be able to measure those ultra wideband frequencies with this meter. And some of the things that you want in a radio frequency meter is you want a speaker so you can hear the waves, and also volume control helps because you don't want to be annoying people next to you if you don't have to when you're measuring, and you might want to do it more inconspicuously, and so you can actually turn the volume down. A lot of meters don't have that capability; they just have one volume and it's either on or off. So that's a huge advantage to this particular model that they've created. And then there's a digital readout with average and peak hold, and also a reset button, so you can tell. That's super important. So you can tell you don't have to restart the meter. You can get the peak hold, press it, and then see if you're still getting a high reading or a consistent reading. And then it has real-time measurements. So this meter, like when you turn it on, it's going to measure in real time up here with the LEDs, but then also has a digital display that it will show you what is happening right there with the peak hold and the average settings. So it really has everything that you're looking for in an RF meter, where you can measure things around your house, but also has the ability to be upgraded later to include more than just the 24 to 32 gigahertz, but also AT&T is using 38 gigahertz. And so they have plans to have future antennas as the frequencies get higher and the technology rolls out, because they have the telecom industry, they have plans to do other frequencies. They've bought licenses for them. They just haven't installed the antennas, but they're planning to. And so this meter is going to allow us to be able to open it up, replace the antenna, use a different one. And when that new technology comes out, we won't have those blinders on anymore. We'll be able to see exactly how it's operating, and not just taking the industry's word for it.
That's so powerful. I would like to, can we jump to the video clip? You have a 4-minute video clip, which really effectively shows the meter in use and compares like the millimeter wave readings versus the 4G readings. Can we do that now?
Yeah, let me just explain a little bit about what I'm testing in this video. So
Okay.
in the video, I'm testing Verizon's ultra wideband 28 gigahertz antennas, and also I have a 5G phone. So I have an iPhone 12 Pro, and the only reason I got the iPhone was because the iPhone 12 Pro was so that I could have 5G, and I could actually test this with this meter. So and you can turn 5G off on your phone. And what I've realized while testing this is that you're getting most of the millimeter wave radiation from the phone itself. So if you've been worried about that, you can know just from me using this meter that if you have 5G off, you're not going to get that millimeter wave exposure. But it is really important to understand how to use your phone safely. And before we had meters to measure, we didn't really know how much radiation our phones were putting out. And so, just like with the new technology and the new network with the millimeter waves, we didn't know before this. So now we kind of know. And this video shows exactly that. It shows you kind of the nature of these frequencies. It shows you the meter measuring the millimeter waves. And I've got a bunch of other meters laid out on my car in Spokane Valley, Washington, and I'm just right across the street from this tower. So yeah, let's go ahead and play this video. Okay, Brian Hoyer here with Shielded Healing. We have a 5G Verizon ultra wideband cell tower right there, and I've got all these other RF meters. These are not measuring ultra wideband; they're measuring the normal 4G and 5G mid-band frequencies. So we have pretty high readings in all of that. And right now my phone is connected to a 5G, but not the ultra wideband, not the millimeter waves. So this meter right here is the new millimeter wave meter, and it is measuring 24 gigahertz to 32 gigahertz. I'm gonna go ahead and keep it on that setting and measure. And then what I'm gonna do here is press play on this Ultra 8K video, and then we should see a UW show up. And we do see that UW. Now this is tracking. These are not increasing at all, but this is off the charts. Okay, I'm going to reset that. So you can see it keeps going up. Mostly coming from the phone here. Ultra wideband 5G right on the phone. Okay. So this is what we're getting from the tower. As we go further from the phone, you can see I'm resetting it. Whenever I press this button, I'm resetting it. So as I get closer to the phone, you can see that's where I'm getting most of my exposure from. I'm going to come out here towards the tower and measure. Okay. So I am getting a little bit out here. So these are baseline readings. Okay, I got a little bit of a buzz there. You can see that most of it's coming from the phone itself, and it's pinpointing from this tower. And now these towers are normally dormant, but when you have a 5G phone and activate it, it will signal your phone to emit millimeter waves. So the phones are emitting millimeter waves. But it's also gonna throw some millimeter waves at the phone. Now it's kind of laser focused though, so you kind of have to get right into the beam in order to detect it. There, so I was getting into the beam here, but it's possibly the phone because I'm getting close to the phone too.
Brian, just really quick, what's the highest reading that you got in microwatts per meter squared?
It's a good question. So right there, this is actually the moment when I start to get the highest reading that I got the entire time I was testing.
Mm-hmm.
And in the video, I say it's 2 million microwatts per meter squared. But looking back at the video afterwards, it was actually over 20 million microwatts per meter squared of millimeter waves.
So even with everybody knows that the FDA and Health Canada and IGNIRP and all their standards are not accurate at all. They're way, way over, what the safety threshold actually is, like what building biology and other organizations have established. But even at those standards, those extreme standards, that's higher than that.
I'm not sure if they even have standards for the millimeter waves, but for sure the radio frequency, the other frequencies that they do have standards for, I think it's getting up there where it might even be violating that on, especially emitting from a device that's in your hand.
Yeah.
Because a lot of their regulations are for the towers that are emitting, which will emit quite a bit of power. But yeah, 20 million microwatts per meter squared. You'd have to translate that because I think their standards are in milliwatts or even watts. But that's a lot of wattage coming out of the phone in that frequency range.
That's the highest that I've ever heard of in any frequency. Okay, let's continue here. Oh, okay, there we go. Off the charts, millimeter waves from the phone. Look at that. That's crazy. That is 2 million microwatts per meter squared.
So it was actually 20 million, over
That's
20
insane.
million.
So this is why it's important to have a millimeter wave meter, because if you do have people using 5G technology, then you're going to want to be able to measure it. And if you're off like in a stadium or somewhere, you'd be able to measure this because they have 5G in stadiums, downtown areas. Best way to reduce your own exposure is to not use the 5G technology if you don't want to be exposed to millimeter waves. But one caveat to that is when it's connected to that, it's not emitting hardly any of the other waves. Now this meter also measures regular 4G and 3G as well. So that's what I'm measuring now on this meter. Now you'll see, like, as it's connected to, is it still connected? Let's see. Yeah, it's still connected. So it's still pulsing some of the 4G frequencies as well. Okay, that's pretty fascinating. So Is it either or? Did you discover, is it either pulsing millimeter waves and not the lower spectrum when it's pulsing millimeter waves, or is it a little bit of the lower spectrum as it's still, as it's highly pulsing those intense millimeter waves?
So far, I've done limited testing on that, and there is, there was an indication at one point when I was testing where it looked like the 4G was turned off, and I was just getting millimeter waves. But in this video, it showed that I was still getting some pulses in those 4G frequencies. And so this is the thing with field testing though, is it's kind of nuanced because you have so much interference from the towers around you, people driving by, they might be uploading a video, they might be connecting to 5G or 4G. And so it's not a controlled environment. So like when you see spikes, you might get fooled by what's going on very easily. And so that's why I kind of am dancing around the answer to that question, because I think it's possible because I've seen the readings go lower when I connected to the millimeter waves in the past when testing this meter. But in this video, we were still seeing some spikes in those 4G frequencies when it was very close. The meter was very close to the phone.
And then another thing is Starlink and all these satellites that have been deployed, and now drones. We're hearing AT&T is now using drones called what was it called? Cells on wings. They call them flying cows, COW, cells on wings. And so and so we know that the millimeter wave, specifically from Starlink, the frequency range is within the band of this meter. This meter tests for satellite 5G.
Yeah, so the ground antennas that are shooting up radiation back to the antennas in the sky, the satellites, those operate between 26 and 30 gigahertz. Now I have some of those ground satellites nearby. They're about 10 miles from where I live, and when driving by, I haven't been able to detect anything because typically it's shooting straight up. But there's possibilities that when there's clouds or other obstructions in the sky, that there's reflections that can happen. So I think it's going to be important for people to be able to test, especially if they have Starlink, what's coming toward their property and if it's penetrating into their house or not, causing some issues. And one thing we know with the millimeter waves is that they do have a hard time going through walls. It has to be line of sight. And there's actually a great article on Orem Miller's website, Create Healthy Homes, and he has an article on 5G where he talks about the nature of what the industry says, and also he's been to a lot of events about 5G and the technology, and he's talked to engineers and people who are installing these things, kind of as almost like an undercover spy, but getting information about how it works and how it's on demand. It follows your phone around and sends the millimeter waves in a laser focused signal. But it's not active all the time. It's dormant, like I explained in the video, and then it activates because it actually takes a lot of power to pulse these waves. And so to save energy, they don't want to pulse them all the time if they're not needed. And that's in contrast to what 4G and 3G, it's blasting 24/7. And so that's important to understand, is that not all of 5G is bad. It's actually great that they're not blasting these 24/7, but we didn't even know when they were blasting them or if they were blasting them before, but now we will know, like if they are truly dormant or not.
And like you said, if you're at a stadium where there's 5G installed, like if you're on an airplane, as companies start to use more the higher band, the millimeter wave band, to be able to tell, to be able to make the known. And I would say, as like, I mean, there, in one aspect, everybody who's aware and paying attention, it's like we are the functioning as the immune system of mankind, right? Everyone
Hmm.
on, and there's more and more people that are really waking up and starting to ask questions and like really saying, do we want that? Do I want that in my terrain? To be able to make the invisible visible with regards to 5G and these millimeter waves, and to be able to correlate, okay, symptomology versus now for the first time ever, it's affordable for the common person, not everyone, let's say, but it's more and more affordable with this meter now. We can look at and correlate symptomology with millimeter wave exposure, and we can
Yes.
start taking like eliminating those question marks, eliminating the, well, we don't know, we don't, you hear this from the industry all the time, oh, we need to do more studies, more science. They're never going to do any science that goes against their bottom line. They might have some whistleblowers, they might have some a little bit of pushback within that, but it's really up to us,
It
right?
is. Yes.
So this is an opportunity, if you resonate with this idea and if you have the means to do so, to really be part of the birth and growing of an army of people that are actually taking the question marks out of 5G and saying, okay, and there are groups that are starting now, right, of people coming together and sharing data and sharing, oh, how do I use this new millimeter wave uh, testing device. Can you maybe tell us about the price? Let's kind of wrap up here because I want to respect everyone's time, and we're all so busy these days. Tell us about the price and what that includes, and the group, and how people can, those that resonate with this can say, yes, I'm interested. I want to, get one of those meters for myself.
Yeah, so just so people are clear, this technology will be able to test Verizon's ultra wideband 28 gigahertz. T-Mobile has some 28 gigahertz band, like 5%. Verizon has 95% of the bands licensed to them. And then the ground satellites with Starlink. There's also motion sensors on commercial doors, those sliding doors in the grocery stores. Those use millimeter waves, not in high amounts like the towers or your phone do, but they still do use those. And then also those whole body scanners at the airport, you can measure that. And so we want information on all of these things. And then in addition to that, the meter also has a separate setting to measure all the normal things that you would with an RF meter. And so when we're looking at other millimeter wave monitors, you're looking at 25,000 to 8,000. I actually had the one in the middle and I
Mhm.
tested it, and it was very difficult to use. You had to pinpoint it and point it directly at where the antenna was in order to get any reading whatsoever. And I measured this stuff about 2 years ago when they were just deploying 5G in Los Angeles and Austin and New York City and some other areas like that. But this one has an omnidirectional antenna in it. So if you're getting millimeter waves from any direction, it's going to detect it rather than having to point a little horn antenna exactly toward it. Whereas if a millimeter wave was coming from this direction, you just totally wouldn't pick it up. This will pick that up because it's an omnidirectional antenna, which is very, very important. So even the super expensive meter doesn't even necessarily mean that you're going to be able to detect it accurately.
Mhm.
And a lot of the meters are like that are on the market. But for all of our time up until now, we've had to spend at least 8 grand or more on technology that can even detect this frequency range. And so now, though, we're looking at a price tag of $1,000, uh, and we're gonna give $50 off for the launch here with this meter when pre-ordered. And we say on here before July 4th, but we're gonna change that to until we're basically sold out of the first batch.
Which is about 50 more meters that are not spoken for yet.
Yes, that's correct.
So that's the $50 coupon code, $50 off plus free shipping, for the next 50 meters that are spoken for.
That's
And
right.
but then in perpetuity, people can still use the link and can still use the coupon code for that $50 off. Is that right?
Yeah, they can still use it for $50 off. After that, we're going to have to charge shipping. For the initial order, the manufacturer gave us a special deal so it can help them with production costs and get the payments in early and all of that. But in the future, the price is going to be like a little bit higher for us, so we don't have as much margin to give coupons and everything. So we're we're hoping that people who purchase this want to be involved and also in communities that we're going to create through Telegram and maybe some other means. Maybe in the future, if it really takes off, we can start our own website, our own group for testing this and recording the data. But we want it to be a community of people that are testing this and sharing information, because me and my town is going to be different from Josh over in his city, or someone else in another country. And so if we have a community, we're able to kind of understand what's going on more and help one another. And also there's some things like you saw in the video where you could actually get tricked by what's going on. And I'm very familiar with that. I'm testing this in the field all the time. I want to make sure that people are getting accurate information, and that an accurate response and behavior changes that should coincide with the testing that's done and what we understand about the technology. So I'll also have a practical tips manual that I include with this when it ships out, and this is all going to be shipping in September,
Mm-hmm.
by the way. So if you pre-order now, you won't get the meter until sometime in September. Um, and but you'll have the manufacturer's meter, you'll have a professional tips meter that I'm going to include and create myself, and then we're also going to create a group that you can be a part of, and we'll have you on an email list to with a link to join the Telegram group or whatever other platform we might use.
So there's the manufacturer's guide, and then your tips guide that you're going to include with that, and then you are creating a group with it, for this, for everyone who purchases to come together and to share both usage tips and also data. This is amazing. And then, so for those people who aren't aware of Telegram, telegram.org, you don't need a phone, and you don't need to be on your phone to use it. Like, there is actually a web for PC and Mac, a downloadable app that you can use from your wired computer safely. And it's, our teams have been using it for basically most or all of our communications. So that's easy to get into, to use, to be part of that, to take advantage of that, and be part of this community. So any last points, Brian? I mean, this is an exciting first announcement for those people who, again, want to be part of this initiative. Make the invisible visible. Be able to show people, and be able to, maybe you have an Instagram, maybe you have a Telegram group or an email list, or just know people, your friends and family, to be able to show these are the millimeter waves. This is what 5G is doing to us. What we know along with the science. But here's the exposure levels, and this is what happens when I turn 5G on my phone on and off. To be able to demonstrate that, Brian, I think for as many people that are not wanting to look at truth right now and become aware of what's happening in our environment, there are just as many people, I think, that are open to it
Totally.
when
Yeah.
presented, when given the opportunity to learn more. So, yeah. Any final thoughts on this?
Well, I just think that the kind of people that are following you will understand this, and that and a lot of our customers, honestly, we have the most amazing customer base ever. I feel like we get to meet so many beautiful souls and interesting people, and people that are really want to make the world a better place. And that's really what we want to do with this meter, and with the work that I do, with the work that you do, Josh. We were just talking before we hopped on here about our missions, and trying, like, what can we do to make a difference in this world. And there's so many different avenues that we can do that. This is one area where we have people that follow us that are interested in measuring EMF and protecting their own families. But I kind of want to pitch the idea of, like, look, it's our job in this world, our mission, to also measure this. If you purchase this meter, I want you to grab this mission, and like, okay, it's not just measuring it for my family. That's great if you can do that, but share it with your neighbors and your community. I already told, like, there's a group here in Idaho that I'm a part of called Wire Idaho. I said, I'm going to donate one of these meters to the group, so anybody in the group can use it and measure if they're concerned. If you want to do that for one of your local groups, I would encourage you to do that, and purchase it for them. If you have any kind of health business or whatever, you can write it off on your taxes. There's multiple ways that you can kind of take advantage of that. But the goal is to be a part of this mission and start measuring this so we're not in the dark about this information, and also to help others, because there's also a lot of people that are electrosensitive that might not be able to afford this meter, but they're super anxious and they have a lot of anxiety around all the things being installed, and they're feeling things.
Mhm.
So the question is, are they feeling it from the millimeter waves, or are they feeling it from the other 5G antennas that are being installed out there? And this meter is going to help them to understand what's going on and why they're feeling symptoms that are debilitating to them. So really the mission is to use this as a tool to support everyone in a better and healthier world. And also, while doing it, you're supporting me and my work that I'm doing to help people, and also Josh. So it's kind of a win-win all the way around, and I just kind of want people to hear that.
Beautiful. So it's the EMF Freedom Monitor. Brian, does the manufacturer have plans to, as they expand the antenna range and they get those upgrades, the antenna range upgrades, to include the 60 gigahertz, go up and include the 60 gigahertz range specifically?
Yeah, their plan is to, as the technology advances and begins to be installed, to continue developing new antennas for AT&T for the 60 gigahertz. What I've heard from them is that they're planning to do all of that, and you know, but first, I think it makes sense their plan right now because they're trying to get it out, and Verizon's the biggest telecom company.
Hmm.
They've got the most antennas installed out of anybody, probably more than all of the rest combined. And so this 28 gigahertz is the signal that we do need to be testing first, because it's the one that's most widespread of the millimeter waves right
And
now.
for those of us that are not in the States, how does this meter and the range 24 to 32 gigahertz apply internationally to the millimeter wave aspect of 5G being deployed there?
Well, I know in other countries they have frequencies that they've licensed to different telecom industries. So like in Europe, I think Vodafone has a significant portion, and you're going to kind of have to check to see what it is. But this is one of the bands that's been bought up in all the countries, and it's the one that they're mainly using all over the world right now for millimeter waves.
Yeah, and that's so cool that it's expandable and will be updatable by the manufacturer. So, but you are the distributor for these in North America, right? And you're shipping these directly from your company. By the way, you said you have the most amazing customers. I would also say that you have the most amazing team. And like you have all, if you somehow managed as a business owner to have all Soul Tribe around you, and I just really love and respect that. People who are likewise they care from coming from the heart and they're paying attention too. So your website again, shieldedhealing.com, and you can use the coupon code launch for that $50 off and the free shipping. And or just click the link in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube, or just below where this video is embedded, or on the email. So any of those options will get you to the meter on Brian's site for that this introductory launch offer. And also, Brian, the same day this video is going to come out, tomorrow, July the 1st, you have a free webinar on 5G with our friend Nick Pino.
That's correct. Yeah. So we have this webinar, and we're talking about 5G and a lot of the myths around it, and then I'm going to be sharing some of the insights that I've had with testing these millimeter waves as well, but also just simple strategies on what you can do to protect yourself from EMF damage in a 5G world. That includes things you can take action on right away in your own home.
Yeah, so this is updated information, right? And people will be able to watch that on the archive or on replay for free. This is for free if they miss the live stream. But this then leads to, like, you'll have an invitation, people will, to do the course, We've promoted this course a couple times before in our community. It's continually being enhanced and refined, and the feedback that you guys are getting, I mean, this is the one of the best ways to really get up to speed on the whole EMF safety thing in a like a one-stop shop kind of a thing.
Yeah, and we talk about actionable steps that you can take every week. Every week we recommend to do. We have 6 modules in the course that we created, and every week you have homework, and you can get your family involved. And there's different little things you can do. One of the homeworks, as an example, is one of the modules is for artificial light, and the homework for that is to figure out which lights in your house are flickering, for instance. So you'll take like your phone and take a slow motion video of the lights in your house, and then we kind of tell you which lights are healthy and which ones aren't, and what to look for and that sort of thing. But it's all about EMFs and health and wellness, and how to practically bring forth steps where you can actually change things. And we spent a lot of time recording. I have, one of the main things in there that I like that I did was I did a whole talk on grounding, because there's a lot of confusion around healthy. What's the healthiest way to ground your body? Um, does it is it bad to be on a grounding mat when you have electricity all around you? And or is it a healthy therapy? Like, what are the differences with that? And there's a lot of controversy around that particular issue. So we take a lot of issues like that in every single type of EMF, and we go through them and give you actionable steps and homework and different things on how to change that, and also product recommendations. My team and I are in the field. Uh, like, we do 30 to 50 EMF assessments per month as a team,
Mm-hmm.
and so we get real time information on products that are out there, uh, and new things that are happening that can be problematic as well.
Well, that's excellent. So there's a link in the description below where you can access the webinar for free. Even if you're watching this after July the 1st, you can access that on an ongoing basis, I think, I hope, right?
Yeah.
That's how Nick has it set up.
Hmm.
And then just tap into that and self navigate there. So, Brian, thank you for that. So, so thank you, Brian, so much for your time and just what you're doing for so many people and communities and helping us to get EMF aware, to get EMF safe, and just that pathway. This is the awareness portion of it, but there are so many solutions being put forward, and you're bringing those forward with Shielded Healing, but other companies as well. Once we get aware, we can shield ourselves. We can get fabrics and different clothing and remove the source of the problems within our home and get educated on how to use technology. I feel like I'm talking too much here, Brian, but maybe I'll just give you the last word, and thank you again.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Josh. And one of the things I pride myself in, or I try to emulate, is the idea that when problems arise, we need to rise to the occasion and step it up and figure out how to solve those problems. And so part of that means upgrading our solutions as the problems come and get worse. And with 5G, that's one of the things is some might argue that the new technology, millimeter waves, aren't necessarily worse. It's different, and they're making it worse by combining it with everything else. And so this meter is huge in being able to help us identify habit changes, not only shielding and new products, but even simple, free, easy habit changes that people can utilize in ways that they're using their phone, even routes that you're taking on different pathways and things like that. So there's going to be a lot of resources that we share within the group that you're a part of when you purchase this meter and go in the field testing. Things like maps that you can find online of where these millimeter wave antennas are, where you can test them, and that also informs you on if you want to avoid them and that sort of thing. So I'm just super excited to meet some more people from your tribe and bring everybody together to do something amazing with this.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brian. So it's shieldedhealing.com, and then find the product and it's promo code launch. And thank you for watching. We invite you to be part of what Brian's doing with this, with making the invisible visible. And we'll see you again soon. Peace.